Good afternoon, and welcome to another short bite. Let me get my camera up and running here. There we go. Well, I pray that you guys are having a great day. I just wanted to do a short bite and put in order some things that happened to me, how I started off in life, how I ended up being where I was at, and how I got to where I'm at today, and on the journey of where I'm going. And it's not to talk about me. Hey, Crystal. It's to help those who maybe are struggling in areas and maybe they think their situation is unique, or nobody's gone through anything like you have. And all of us have gone through stuff. All of us react to it differently. And I just want to tell you the journey that God has taken me on, and hopefully that will help somebody so that they can be free also. I was born in 1957 in beautiful downtown San Bernardino at St. Bede's Hospital on the 4th floor. I was the third child in our family. I had two older brothers who were 6 and 7 years older than I was. And I just had a happy life. But somewhere around 4 and 5 years old, my older brothers, especially one of them, started to tease me. And I don't know how much of this actually happened and how much of it I've built up over time, but it happened and I reacted to it. Hi, Esther. And so I found out at 4 or 5 years old that my mother made a comment. My brothers made the comment that Mom dressed me as a girl. Now, when you're 4 or 5 years old and your brothers start, hey, your brothers start making fun of you. You were dressed like a girl. You go, what? And then you find out, hey, Lee, you find out that my mother wanted a girl because I had the two older brothers. And so when they had the baby shower, everybody gave her baby infant clothes, and for a girl. So everything was pink. The blankets were pink. My bedroom was pink. My crib was white. It was all girl stuff. How long that went on, I'm sure it just went through the first batch of clothes that she got. Sorry, that was the wifey calling. The first batch of clothes, but all I know is that I was dressed as a girl. Well, then I got a little older and started asking questions like 6 or 7. And my mother said, well, I really wanted a girl. And this rejection started setting in between 5 and 6 and 7 years old, that my mother wanted a girl and I was a boy, and there was nothing I could do to fix that. So I became very angry. My older brother, one of my older brothers, I'm sure he was pretty jacked up from the messed up mom and dad who looked like Leave It to Beaver, but there was a lot of internal hurt on both of my parents. He used to beat me all the time. His great evening was when mom and dad went grocery shopping, that he just beat the living daylights out of Larry. Hey, honey, that was Heather. And so I have these things that are starting to build up in me. I'm supposed to be a girl. My mom wanted a girl, so she didn't want a boy. My older brother beats me up. And then I had a mom and dad who were so hurt themselves that my mother never in her life said, I love you. As I got older, it became a joke with me. I would say, hey, Mom, love you, talk to you later. And she'd go, okay, Larry, bye. And she couldn't even say it. Now, that isn't because she was mean. It was because mother had her own issues, but they impacted me. And so I felt rejection. I felt I was the wrong sex. I had a brother who beat me. My mother never said I love you. My dad said I love you one time. That was the day he dropped me off at the bus station to go into the Air Force. And so here I am. I'm growing up and I feel rejected and I feel unloved. I was a quiet kid. I was abnormally tall. You know, I remember being picked on as a kid. They called me Daddy Long Legs because, you know, my hips go all the way up to my neck. And so, you know, my legs were long, my body was short. So all these little things that started to affect me. And you know, there might have been other people who were in the same situation that didn't affect, but it did affect me, and I felt great rejection. Well, then as I grew up, I tried to go to college, couldn't do it, couldn't work a full-time job and whatever. So I felt another failure there. And so I went into the Air Force. I liked the Air Force. I got stationed in England, and my friends introduced me to, hey, come on over to the club. And I go, okay, you know, so you go to the club and there's drinking, and you've never drank. You've never had anybody in your family drink. I'd gotten saved as a little kid. And so, I mean, at 12 years old, I knew I was supposed to be a pastor. I was praying in tongues, but rejection was on me. And so when I went to England and my friends taught me how to drink, and then of course, you know, I'm 19 years old, I think at that time. And I was very aware of girls. And so I learned to start picking up on girls. I'm away from the family. I'm no longer going to church. And I got sucked up into the club trying to pick up women. Well, in that situation, guess what? I just got more broken, more rejected, more hurt. Nothing worked out. It opened up a door into the sexual realm that I had no business doing in as a single man. So now I'm drinking and trying to pick up women. I've lost all my relationship. There's no relationship with God, really. I'm not praying. I'm not talking. I'm not going to church. I know God. I know He's there. I know He's real, but I'm doing life my way. In that time, I had 2 long-term girlfriends at different times, and neither one worked out. Both of them broke my heart, and I don't blame the women. I blame me. I was broken. I probably didn't pull the trigger on either one of them, or I was so insecure and didn't know what to do. So when I got out of the Air Force, I got a job and was working, and I started going to clubs. And so that became my life. I worked, I went to the clubs, I drank, I tried to pick up on somebody, and I got really good at it. But it just reinforced the brokenness. It reinforced the I'm hurt, nobody loves me. I have very little interaction with my family at this time. In that drinking, the door opens up to you go out and you're drinking, and then you start doing things you normally wouldn't do if you were sober. And so one time I'm out drinking and I ran into somebody, and I don't know, we went back to their place, we went someplace, and I was introduced to drugs. And of course, when you're drunk, you do things you would never do when you were sober. And so this lady that I'd met said, here, try this. And I smoked this little glass pipe, which turned out to be crack cocaine. And you don't have to hit the crack pipe 10 times to get addicted. You can do it one time and you're down the rabbit hole. So here I am at 30 years old, drinking, no steady girlfriend, no relationship, not going to church. And now I'm starting to smoke crack cocaine. And it started off as a, maybe once a month, every other month. And then as time went on as the years progressed, it got more and more to where it was maybe every single month. Then it was, maybe every week. And then it became twice a week. And till it got to the point at the end. I'm now like 40 years old. I'm living over in San Bernardino, what I would consider the ghetto. And if you live in that area, I apologize. But to me, I lived in a little studio house, probably built in 1920, 1930. I could hear the rats running across the ceiling inside the house. And I had developed into total hopelessness. I remember I had a routine. I got up, worked, I drove over to 7-Eleven. I got up, I went into 7-Eleven. I bought a half a gallon of Rocky Road ice cream, drove back around the block to my house. It was down an alley behind two other houses, and went into my little tiny rat-infested house. Had a TV, and I'd watch TV and eat my Rocky Road ice cream. And about 10, 11 o'clock at night, there'd be a knock on the door, and my drug dealer would show up with some woman, and me and the woman would smoke drugs for the rest of the night. And I started doing that 2, 3, 4 times a week. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And I was totally hopeless. I felt unloved. And the hopelessness was overwhelming. And when I was talking to Heather about it the other day, it kind of opened up some really hurts and pains. And it was just such a painful time that part of me wanted to die, but part of me still wanted to live. But I did not know how to get out of my situation. I didn't know how to get over the hurt. I didn't know how to get over the rejection. I didn't know how to get over the addiction. Everything was just, it was a mess. And I remember one night I'd went out, and I'd actually went and met somebody at the next city over, and I had made a lot of money, and I bought a lot of dope and smoked all of it. And I was driving home, probably 3 o'clock in the morning, and I admitted to myself that I was a drug addict. Up until that time, I thought I had it under control. And just total despair is on me. But I didn't really want to die. I still wanted to live, but I didn't know how to get out of it. And this unction came up over me. And I know it was the Lord, because I know I was saved at 12. So the Lord was there. And I just made this confession out loud. I said, Lord, help me. I don't know what to do. And Lord, I give up doing life my way. Those were the words I said. Lord, I give up doing life my way. And a couple things happened in that very moment. One, I felt the presence of God for the first time since I was 12 or 13 years old. And I felt loved. I felt He was there. I felt that it was tangible. It was like the hairs on my arms stood up. And I knew at that moment that if I drove off a cliff and died, I would go to heaven, that I was saved. And so the first thing I knew was I'm still saved. I'm still a Christian. I'm still a child of God. And I made that declaration, if I give up, and I just felt peace. And I'm still high. I've been smoking. And so I went home that night, and I laid in bed, and there was this kind of this hope building up in me. And when I closed my eyes, I felt the most evil presence come into my room. And I was afraid to open my eyes. Here I am, a grown man. I'm 40 years old, 6'7", 350 pounds. I'm not afraid of very much. But I was terrified that there was something evil in my room, and it was standing at the door. And I knew if I opened my eyes, I would see some big dark shadow. So I just refused to open my eyes, and I think I finally fell asleep. And the next morning, I was just so terrified by it that I went to my mom and dad, who lived in the next city, 15, 20-minute drive away. And I talked to my dad about it, and I said, can I stay here for a couple days? He said, sure. And I admitted to him that I had a drug issue, and that I'd given up, and I'd said, Lord, I'm I'm willing to let you lead me now. And so I explained to my dad what I felt in the room. And my dad, he'd been saved since he was 18. He wasn't a scholar, but he said, Larry, the devil was mad because you got away. That was his take on it, that I had made a decision that started the separation process between me and the enemy. And so I stayed at my mom and dad's house. I think that night my dad says, you have authority, just go back home. And so I went back home, and I was no longer afraid to be in my apartment. But what I did do was I immediately said to the family, because they had stopped going to church unbeknownst to me, because I hadn't seen them in maybe 8, 9, 10 years. And I said, let's go find a church. And so the next Sunday, we all went to mom and dad's house, and we jumped in the big Suburban. I think there was me, my mom and dad, my sister and her husband, my other sister, and my very oldest brother. And so we started visiting some churches, and we went to about 4 different churches. And I found one that I said I liked, and my sister liked it. And so we started going to that church, which happened to be Colton First Baptist in Colton. I think now it's called Centerpoint with Pastor Dane. And the drug addiction is there. And so I think I went about 3 or 4 days without smoking a pipe, and then somebody came knocking on my door, and I fell. And then I went like a week and a half, and then I fell. Hey, Miss Rita. And I think I fell 4 times before I was free of the drugs. And that's without going to rehab or whatever. And I know that was supernatural, because I knew I could not start the healing process in any other area of my life if I wasn't free from the drugs. And there was no delivery ministry. There was no place I could go to get free. So I know that God supernaturally took that away from me. Yes, I was tempted. I might have fallen months later and went out and then got over it. But that started me on the journey of getting free. Now, nobody wakes up and says they want to be an alcoholic or be a drug addict. Now, the alcohol stopped immediately. That was a piece of cake. That went away. The drugs, I had dreams about it. I know by the time that I met Heather, which was 3 years after doing the drugs, that sometimes I would cough and I would taste the crack cocaine come up in my lungs. I would still get attacked with dreams, but there was no deliverance. I didn't have any idea of my authority. So that was the beginning of my freedom, was I give up doing it my way. And that was the catalyst. And so in any type of ministry, you have to give up your authority over your life. And we think, well, that means I'm not going to have fun, and I'm just going to sing Kumbaya and sit in the pew and sing hymns. And that's actually the biggest lie in the world. I had nothing. At 40 years old, I was living in that horrid little house. I think I was paying $300 a month for rent, and this was 23 years ago. And everything changed after that. And so I got into church. The pastor immediately, I reached out to him and asked if I could have a meeting with him. And I wanted to tell him that I was still struggling with the drugs. And he looked at me and thought, I was a salty Christian, and he was ready to put me into some type of ministry somewhere. And when I told him I was still struggling with the drugs, he said, okay, well, why don't you meet with me every week and mentor? And the drugs never came back. So once the drugs were gone, then we needed, hey, Susan. And now I needed to somehow deal with the broken heart. And I didn't get that at Colton First Baptist. I got plugged into the ministry. I had things to do. It kept me busy. I was on the prayer team. Within 6 months, 7 months, I was able to start teaching through the Bible with the pastor. And so I was very occupied, but I was not free. There was still a broken man. There was still all kinds of hurt, but the drug addiction was gone. So I could, and the alcohol was gone. And so I could then move on. Well, at about 3 years after getting off the drugs, I met Heather, and maybe 2 years after the drugs. I'm not quite sure with that. But when we got married, I was still broken. I was still very broken, but I had a desire for God, God only. I wanted God, 100% of God, whatever God wanted me to do. I did not want to go back to doing it my way. And so we kept moving forward. So when me and Heather got married, she left her church, I left my church, and we started, going to a church together. And somewhere 3, 4, 5 years into our marriage, maybe 9 years, we came across the revelation of grace. And so then we started learning in the Bible that we're not under the law, and God's not looking for a way to smack us, and we're not filthy, rotten sinners. And so the grace took me so far where I started to get a little revelation that I was loved. And that was my biggest thing, is I didn't know how to receive love from God. And I really didn't know how to love somebody because I didn't have it to give. So the grace was the foundation that we started getting rid of all the old bad theology and learning that I'm not rotten, I'm not hopeless, I'm not a sinner that I get up every day and confess all my sins, because that's not biblical. That's not a biblical principle. That's not what the Bible says. And then when we got to the point where we came across deliverance, and Heather actually found Catherine Crick, Apostle Catherine Crick. And when that happened, we started seeing it. And the first thing I did was, after I learned it, went back and looked at biblically. We have the authority to cast out demons, and I started doing self-deliverance. And so anytime I saw something that come up that was the brokenness or the hurt or the pain or the rejection, I would renounce that, and any demon that had built up a stronghold in me, I commanded them to leave. And I started getting success. I started getting peace on me. My anger went from like 100,000,000% down to like 10%. And then one day I was talking, I said, you know what, Heather, I want you to pray over me. I want you to do a deliverance over me, because the Bible says that 1 can cause 1,000 to flight, and 2 can cause 10,000 to flight. And so there is a principle in when 2 people work together. Somebody just walked in my office. Keys? Hi, Heather. How are you? Got some sugar from the wife. Woo! Anyway, now I forgot totally where I was at. Lord, help me, help me, help me. So when Heather and me got together, first off, I had to be willing. She had to understand what authority she had. And I started renouncing things. And because I walk in the prophetic, the Lord allowed me to see what was coming out of me. And I saw snakes come out. I saw slugs come out. And that really wasn't, there wasn't those things in me, but they represent different types of demonic strongholds. I saw a big giant snake, come out of my mouth, and it was like hanging out in front of me. And all of a sudden 2 angels just materialized in front of me, grabbed the snake and pulled it out of me. I saw a translucent man, step up out of me and run out the room. And these are all different layers of strongholds. Those weren't actually things that were in me. Those were demonic things. And there was a lot of freedom, and it took about 15 minutes. And when Heather was done, I noticed a couple things. One, I was exhausted, like I had ran a marathon, and all I was sitting there coughing, coughing. And the second thing was, there was a dead silence in my head. The noise, I did not realize that there was a constant noise in my head, and it was all the little voices of the demons telling me what I should do. And so it was like, oh, it was the greatest feeling in the world. After that deliverance with Heather, it was so good. Well, about, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks later, I said, you know what, there's still some stuff. There's still some stuff I'm seeing. And so let's do it again. And we did it again, and there was not quite as much as the first time, but it was still very poignant where I felt way more deliverance. And so if you have a drinking issue, if you have a drug issue, if you have a sexual perversion issue, it's not you. It's the demonic that's come on you. And I know there are programs out there for alcohol. There's programs out there for drugs. And there are people who get free. But if we were really honest, most of those programs have a 3, 4, 5, or 6% success rate. Well, in the spiritual realm, deliverance has a 100% success rate if the person is willing. And so I want to offer, people we know that have drinking or drug addiction, there is a way for you to be totally free of that and then start the healing process of your heart. And so I would encourage any of you who are watching online, who are here at the church or wherever you're at, allow if there's not a deliverance place in your area, then you can watch when we do deliverances at the church, because I know that if you're watching me or Heather do a deliverance and you're agreeing with it, you can receive it. And we've had deliverance happen over the phone. We've had it happen over live stream. We've had it happen over a Zoom. And so when all those rejections happened to me as a kid, the hurt and the pain and the bad relationships, like I said, it wasn't the women, it was me. I had a lot of nice women that I had, that I dated, and we had relationships, but it was me. I was so broken. And thank God, if they'd have gotten me, they would have probably kicked me to the curb really quick because I was so jacked up. But the freedom that came from the deliverance and then understanding the gospel of grace of who I truly was. So at 64 years old, I have more hope, more excitement, more good vibes for the future than I ever have in my entire life. And so anybody can be free of alcohol, drugs, sexual perversion, sexual identity issues, anger, rejection, fear, hopelessness, whatever it is, you can be free of that. And all you have to do is say, I want it, and then hook up with somebody who knows what they're doing, and you can be free. And there's no reason why I don't get up here and I'm going to take a shot and it's going to offend probably somebody somewhere. Nowhere do we ever teach that I need to get up every day and say, hi, my name is Larry, I'm a drug addict. Because I'm not. I don't get up every day and say, hey, my name's Larry, I'm an alcoholic. No, that's who I used to be. And once I got free of that, I never need to put that identity on me again. If I get up every day and say, hi, my name is Larry, I'm a drug addict, or my name is Larry, I'm an alcoholic, or my name is Larry, I'm totally fearful. And no, once you've been delivered, that identity is gone. Don't keep reinforcing it, because you as a Christian have so much power in your declarations of what you say. Well, I'm always fearful. No, I don't say that anymore. And Heather has really helped me to guard my tongue and what I say. So all of us have hurts and pains. They come in when we're younger, and demonics come and attach themselves to that. But you can be free, but it has to be a willingness on you. Can I see them on you? Absolutely. I have people come into church and I see stuff hanging on them like bats on a wall, monkeys swinging on them, animals hanging on them, because they're all demonic things. But you have to say, I give up doing life my way. So many of us hang on to things. We'll say, well, Lord, I'll give you that part of my life, but I'm going to hang on to this and this and this. And you're always going to be crippled in your walk with God and in your life if you hang on to things. The greatest things that have ever happened to me was after I said I give up. I met Heather after I said I give up. I got married. I got a good job with the county. Then we got our driving school. We have a business. Then the church came out of that. All of it has come out of me saying, I give up doing it my way. And then embracing the new things that come. We embrace the gospel of grace. When we were introduced to deliverance, we researched it, looked at it, and it was real, and we embraced it. I have so many people who are Christians who want to argue with me about deliverance. Well, a Christian can't have a demon. Why would you bring that up? If you see somebody who's broken, if you see a Christian who's still struggling with stuff, and you want to get into a theology discussion and argument about can a Christian have a demon or not, you're not getting anybody free, and it's the demon in you that's pushing that theology. Is there anywhere in the Bible that says you can be possessed? No, that's English translation. It's one word. It means demonized. It means a demon or demons have gotten a hold and have a big influence on you. And it could be a little influence to where you have certain issues to where you are totally under the control of the demons. They just lead so much of your life. But all of those can be kicked off and you can be free. So I encourage you, if you're in church, out of church, if you're in the area, we live across the United States. If you need deliverance, reach out. We will help you. Watch one of our church services. If I know who you are, I can do a deliverance. Heather can do a deliverance. Right at the end of our service, we will speak to you through the live stream on Facebook, and you can be delivered. Would you rather live the rest of your life just kind of mediocre, sucking it? Why is nothing's working out? I'm not happy. Or would you rather be free? I'm done trying to be or being prideful about anything. I don't care if I cough, I spit, I fall down. I don't care. I want to be free of all the lies of the enemy so I can live the life that God has for me, which is good. It's a good life. I'm living a life now that I never even dreamed possible. I never thought I would ever have the life I have now. So you, wherever you're at, it doesn't matter how old or how young you are, you can have the best life ever, and it's going to be through surrendering. Said, Lord, I give up doing it my way. Get a true understanding of who you are in Christ, what happened at the cross, who Christ is in your life, the relationship you can have with God, and then get rid of all the monkeys. Get rid of all the excess baggage that's tied to you. Allow God to heal that soul, your broken heart. Anyway, I would encourage you. I hope that helps some of you. We're probably going to have a night in the future where it's going to be really set up with just me and anybody who has an alcoholic or drug addiction to come in. We're going to see how that works. If not, we're always doing deliverance on our church services, Wednesday night at 6:30 and Sunday morning at 10. I pray that this bless you. If you have comments or questions, I will answer and respond to anything that you put in the comment section, okay? I pray that you have a blessed day, and remember that Jesus died for you so that you can be reinstated and reunited with the Father, not so you could become his personal whipping boy or slave. The best life you could possibly imagine is in front of you when you surrender. Amen? Have a blessed one. Love you guys.